Apologies. Now, hopefully you can all hear me. So good morning again, and welcome to you all to Cabinet on Monday, the 29th of November. I'm only aware of Councillor Shire's absence this morning, as she is attending council in Norwich. Do we have any other apologies for absence? No? Minutes. To approve the minutes. Does anyone ever have any comments on the minutes? No? In which case...
I move approval, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for the minutes, please? Councillor Toy. Okay. All those in favour of approving those minutes? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. I'm not aware of any public comment. Thank you. Any items of urgent business? I'm not aware of any. Okay, thank you. Declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations of interest? Lovely, thank you. Members' questions. Anything anyone wants to raise now, or will we take them as we move along the agenda? Right, okay, thank you. Minutes and recommendations from Cabinet working parties. To receive the draft minutes, I think everyone's seen those. If anyone's got any comments they'd like to make on any of those. No, in which case we'll record those as received. Thank you. Recommendations from overview and scrutiny. Councillor Dixon.
Yes, good morning, everyone, Madam Chairman. There are two recommendations arising from our meeting on the 10th of November. Recognising, of course, that this is about a tree planting strategy, I ought to just say that in the case of the first recommendation, there was a discussion that, as I said, whilst it's around tree planting, of course, tree planting is but the very first step in quite a long process, and the success of tree planting is ultimately, in the end, on what happens thereafter. And so there was considerable debate around the future management and the maintenance arrangements of the planted trees. There was also a view that perhaps the heading of the strategy could include hedgerows, hedgerows being equally important as trees, particularly in terms of their contribution in terms of biodiversity for the space that they occupy. So those were the main issues in the first resolution that we make, or recommendation that we make. The second really was part of a wider discussion around, yes, we, I think, recognise the contribution that trees and hedges make, but there was a view that perhaps the strategy could be broadened to include perhaps a biodiversity strategy at a future point. So that's maybe work for the future more than a recommendation to change the tree planting strategy. But I think the first one was the one that carried, if you like, the greatest concern that more could be done and perhaps could be reflected in the tree planting strategy. So, Madam Chairman, they are the points behind those recommendations that were made by overview and scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lloyd, would you like to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, the tree strategy is the overall umbrella under which a range of different methods are covered. These include hedgerow, which is included in detail within the strategy, but also goes on to talk about things like Miyawaki forests, which are small clumps, climate clumps, some might call them, community orchards, and indeed natural regeneration, which is also a very valid way of improving biodiversity. All that would have been explained, but unfortunately the officer on the day was not permitted to fully explain the strategy to ONS. Biodiversity is also a key point of the tree strategy. However, we will concentrate on our corporate plan objectives for now. We like the idea of a biodiversity strategy standalone. But I think for now, I'd like the team to concentrate on delivering on the corporate plan objectives. We are still waiting for the environmental bill to be formally passed. That, of course, contains many sections around improving biodiversity, tree cover, lots of other issues related to the work that we're working on. That will be helpful when that comes through. And I think all councils will be having to do what we're doing as a matter of course. So I hope that answers the question. I think the tree strategy does cover all aspects of tree. We think hedgerow is really important, and in some ways more important than trees in terms of wildlife and ecology. And that is well documented within the report. So we'll continue to call it the tree strategy, and we will look at the biodiversity angle when time permits. Thanks Scrutiny for their comments.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? No, in which case it's been proposed. Has it been seconded? Richard, thank you. It's been proposed and seconded. So all those in favour, please. That's unanimous. So we move on then, please, to the local plan consultation arrangements. Councillor Toy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this is the third and final consultation in a series that will bring our new local plan. There's a huge amount of work that's got us here. We have to produce a statement of community involvement, which is hence we've laid out this plan of how we will engage on this final stage, and we believe it exceeds the requirements for that statement of community involvement. This is for a final consultation on soundness and legality or legal compliance of the plan, which is all laid out in 3.2 in the report. There's also we are approving this here subject to the Planning Policy and Built Heritage Working Party, so that we can maintain this timescale rather than pushing it back, because we feel it's important to bring this new plan forward. There's a slight refresh on some of the early assessments that were done, because it's been going on since 2015 for like habitats regulations, which will all be done at the final meeting on the 6th of December, so that we can meet the targets laid out within the paperwork here. I don't know if the chair for the Planning Policy Built Heritage has anything to add to that this morning.
Councillor Brown, would you like to say something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. I don't think I really need to add very much to what Councillor Toy has just announced. I think what we need to note as regards the next round of public consultation is that it's a limited legal process, and the public are allowed to comment on the soundness and the legal compliance issues of the plan. It's not going to be another opportunity for the public to start questioning site allocations and the policies that we have prepared. So I think this measure is necessary to keep the development of the plan on track in terms of its timetable, so that we can go out to consultation on the 10th of January for 6 weeks, which will take us to the end of February. And then hopefully we'll be able to move it forward for inspection by the inspector during the early course of next year.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. Is anyone wishing to speak on this item? Councillor Gay.
I just wanted to second Councillor Toy's proposal, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? In which case I'll move to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. We move on to the Public Convenience Investment Programme, please, and Councillor Stewart.
Good morning, members, and thank you, Chair. The first thing I would like to do is to look at the recommendations and to recommend that, and the third recommendation about what is asked of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, that particular paragraph is reworded. The reason I'm saying that, it's unfortunately, it's the Overview and Scrutiny Committee is not part of the executive. It's a committee in its own right. We can ask them to do things, we certainly can't instruct. And I thank the Democratic Services officers for drawing that to our attention. So the first thing, what I would like to do, and I will write this out for you, Emma, so that will help make sure we've got it right, that we request that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee undertake further work to develop and embed the draft strategy, which will include evidence collection and engagement as outlined in the draft strategy. Further, the Cabinet be advised of the scope of the committee's work, progress and recommendations. Right, I now actually turn to the recommendations overall and addressing this report. This council, North Norfolk District Council, is committed to providing public toilets across the district. We currently have 38 toilets, of which most of them are on council land, apart from 3. It is part of our corporate priorities to continue that provision. The reason we do this is to support tourism, to support our shops and businesses in our towns, and to take into account the demographic nature of our residents. And I think nationally, it's just worth remembering that there are some 14 million people in this country who suffer from various urinary problems. Now, this council has completed refurbishment already of the Luscious Passage toilets in Sheringham and the toilets in Bacton and Walcott. And we have also refurbished and introduced changing facilities to the toilets at the North Norfolk Information Centre in Cromer. At the current time, we are in the process of constructing and completing new toilets or refurbishment, along with changing place facilities at Stearman's Yard in Wells and Queen's Road in Fakeman. That is a total investment of £737,000. What we're now recommending is a further budget of £500,000 to refurbish and introduce changing facilities at the Sheringham, the Lees toilets, and also to have not just refurbishment, but new toilets along with changing place facilities in North Horsham to replace the portable toilets in the Victoria Street car park, which are now coming to their end of their life. They were installed in 2012, but they were not a permanent long-term solution. I have to say also in the case of North Horsham that in the widespread consultations that have taken place on the Heritage Action Zone, that the demand for better toilets in the town was a frequently expressed request. Now, as part of our corporate plan, and indeed it's been this council's long-term aim, that there should be changing place facilities in every town, either by the provision of us directly or in partnership work with third parties. This is to cater for people with complex health conditions where you need greater space, a mobile hoist, a screen around the toilet, and also room for carers. So this will now take us since 2018 to a total investment of £1.2 million on new toilet provision in North Norfolk. Now, if you look to paragraphs 4.5 and 4.6 of the report, you will see that the council has expressed an interest in making a bid under the government's Changing Place Toilet Investment Programme. That should entitle us at least to £40,000. If we can actually get a larger sum than that, that will enable us to do more in terms of the provision of changing place facilities. Now, moving forward, it is important in my view that we have an up-to-date public convenience strategy, and to help shape our future provision, a review document is attached to these papers. And we are requesting the Overview and Scrutiny Committee to look at doing this work. The principles that the Cabinet are looking for were set out following a business planning group, which are contained within the papers on page 38 and in our ambitions on pages 40 and 41, section 5. Just as an interesting little nugget for some of the complexities of the issues around this, I think it is just for the Overview and Scrutiny Committee to consider. The government, in my view rightly, has become concerned that councils are having to pay business rates on toilets, not the kind of thing which encourages councils to retain and improve them. For the current financial year, the cost of business rates for our toilets is £139,000. But then, of course, we have to get to the detail. And we don't actually save £139,000. We're still having to pay £89,000 in business rates, or 64% of the total on our public toilets, because you only get relief where they are the main or only building on site. And most of our car parks, most of our toilets are located in our car parks. Madam Chairman, just to finish, I should like to point out that North Norfolk District Council and its approach to public toilet provision is very much bucking the national trend. The Royal Society for Public Health in 2019 said that the provision of public toilets is not a luxury, and it's high time that we see them as a basic and essential part of our community. The British Public Toilets Association talks about 1 in 7 public toilets being closed, or 13%, or over 600 between 2010 and 2018. And there are now 37 council areas in the UK where there are no public toilets. I am pleased to say this is not happening in North Norfolk District Council. We are committed to having comprehensive public toilet provision, and by putting an investment of £1.2 million since 2018, we are keeping our toilets up to date and having facilities which are accessible for all. And I believe as a council, we should be proud of that. I therefore move these recommendations.
Thank you very much, Councillor Seward. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Gay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I support everything which Councillor Seward has just said. It's not well understood in the public that local government is not obliged to provide high quality public conveniences. But in this council, we choose to do so. And I hope that we can all agree these recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gay. Councillor Toy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to again thank Councillor Seward for laying that out, and Councillor Gay for making the point that people don't understand. But I'm really pleased that we're doing it, that we're doing the wheelchairs, we're making North Norfolk accessible to people, those that are resident here and our visitors. And it's an important facility that we're providing that's been sadly neglected elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Withington, you wanted to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say how pleased I am that this has come forward as the local member for Sheringham. It's, we've had Victorian toilets on the Lees, which I know I must thank officers Richard Crabb and Scott Martin, because, it has been very problematic trying to keep those toilets up to standard, and they have done and been very responsive. But, it's very much needed that we need that, and particularly we need the accessible toilets as well with the changing places facilities. So, from a tourist angle, from a residence angle, I think it's absolutely wonderful that NNDC is taking this approach, and it will be very much appreciated by our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Toy? No, sorry, Councillor Rest.
Thank you, Chair. Just really to say a thank you, because I do appreciate the work that we do on the conveniences. I probably have to admit that when Councillor Seward mentioned the 14 million people, I probably fit into that category somewhere, be it either age or whatever reason. So I'm always grateful that we do have them there. I'm also grateful for the fact that in Fakenham we have 3. We're very fortunate. We do have 3. They are used. So again, I think it's a very, very good use of the resources of this authority. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rest. Councillor Halliday, then Councillor Cushing.
Thank you. As you know, I'm very keen on public loos. A couple of things. I was interested in the 30,000 for evidence gathering, wondering where that was going to go. And the other thing was the Serco cost. And when I asked Serco to quote for the public loo in Clyde, they were prohibitive. And so we went elsewhere. And I just wondered, given that's your greatest cost in running them, whether you'd considered other options. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Seward, I mean, I always assume that that is part of the fact it's huge part of our waste and maintenance contract across the whole district, why we would get a better rate than just one public convenience. But Councillor Seward, perhaps you'd like to comment?
Well, I can't comment on the Serco situation. What I could suggest to Councillor Halliday, or if necessary, if it's not being suitable in Clyde, that we provide some written point or an explanation. In terms of the £30,000, that's to support evidence gathering, which the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, if they are willing to do this work, we can support them to do that. One of the things that is important when you're doing this is to actually look at levels of usage. We have done some work on it. We have some data on 9 of our 38 toilets. To get a better picture, you actually need to look at rather more. The other thing is that if you're looking at alternative ways of maintaining this provision, then again, looking at what has been done in other areas of the country can be helpful. And again, this money is there to enable them to do that work, as well as any surveying that they may wish to do of residents. It's just a small sum of money to enable us to have a proper and comprehensive study done and enable them to come forward with well-founded recommendations.
And if, of course, they don't need the money, then it will return into the reserves. So it's just there to make sure they've got the money to do the work properly. Councillor Cushing, you wish to come in?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I also that's happy to endorse the proposals made. I think, as the report makes clear, it's actually continuity of policy from the previous administration anyway. I think it's an actual human right that people should have facilities to use when they need them. And given the demographic and also the high proportion of tourism in our district, I think certainly that's probably even a cost benefit there, I suspect, in terms of drawing people in. Probably like Councillor Holiday, I do question the 30,000 a little bit, but anyway, Councillor Seward has asked that. The only other question I would have for Councillor Seward is just a little bit more clarification, please, on the bid that's been made for the £40,000. That was actually being made. Do we have any idea when we actually might get an answer for that?
I don't know. I don't know if there's an officer here that can help us with that one.
Duncan Ellis has got his hand up.
Good morning, Chair, Madam Chair, morning members. Unfortunately, this isn't a helpful hand. I was the officer that pulled together the bid and submitted it on behalf of the District Council. They were going to be considering the bids over the coming months, but I've not seen any confirmation around a date when we will actually hear whether we've been successful or not. I have put a request back through the same channels as the bid was submitted, and I'm waiting to hear when they think there might be an announcement. So as soon as I'm aware, I can update members. And while I'm in the chair, so to speak, I thought it might be useful just to give a bit more clarity about the Serco point that was raised. I think we, as an authority, we have to engage with contractors who are able to provide provision over the whole of the district. So when you're talking about opening and closing and cleansing of around 38 public conveniences, we need a contractor of a significant size and capability to undertake that work for us. So it's a very different position, I suppose, to trying to look at a single provision or a couple of units. It is also packaged with our waste contract, so and our grounds maintenance work. So all of those things are packaged together with one contractor who can provide that continuity of service for us. So and that was the way we packaged the waste contract, and it was the way we had packaged it previously as well. So hopefully that will give you a bit more clarity around that arrangement. So we are in that arrangement for a number of years now, moving forward, in partnership with 2 other councils as well. But as soon as I hear about a potential date for the announcement of the funding, I will let members know and I'll give you an update. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions? Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Firstly, in relation to recommendation 3, I welcome the amended wording of that recommendation. I think it undoubtedly better reflects the working relationship that we have and the protocol that we have in place. So I think that's entirely consistent with that. And I would expect overview and scrutiny to want to engage in this task in a constructive way as a pre-decision scrutiny item, which I anticipate may well be one of the tasks that may well go to our first panel that we'll be setting up to look at this kind of thing. So I welcome that. I do have a question in relation to the 30,000, and I wonder if Councillor Seward can just add a little bit to what he's already said, in terms of how do you anticipate this money being spent?
Well, let's see how the committee decides to approach this work. It is a provisional budget, that there is some financial support there should they wish to need to attract and need funding in order for them to carry out their work. It may be that they will feel that they want to do further work on usage across a wider number of toilets. If the scrutiny committee panel should wish to do that, there will be a cost involved. Therefore, that's why that particular sum of money is there. If they wish to do some resident surveys, that will cost money. Therefore, if they wish to do that, there is some money there. If they have other approaches where they may need some financial support, then the necessary funds are there. It is a relatively modest sum, but I'm leaving that very much to the panel to determine how they wish to use, whether they wish to draw on it, and if so, how.
Thank you, Councillor Seward. I see that our Section 151 officer would like to come in again. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, just to support Councillor Seward's comments, you'll notice within the draft strategy that there are a number of areas where the strategy talks about having additional information. And I think we're very keen to have more evidence around our assets so we can make informed evidence-based decisions around them. So there is survey work that's suggested there, and like Councillor Seward has mentioned, consultation with residents. So we are conscious that often we talk about doing these things, but we don't actually make a budget provision to enable us to do that. So that money is there very much to support those aspirations, but it's within the gift of the working party and the group that consider this as to how best to use it. But the more information we can get about our assets, the better planning we can do in terms of their maintenance and their forward provision. And I think it's also important to understand what the residents are want and need from those facilities too, because that's something that we haven't really gone into detail about in the past. So that money is to provide support for all of that. But like Councillor Buttercup said earlier, if that money is not required and it's not drawn down, then it will go back into the reserve and we can use it elsewhere. But I think it's available to create that evidence base so we can have a better informed position in the future. Thank you.
Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. That's helpful to hear that additional information. And I think really the thrust of my point is that however it's done, I believe it needs to be an evidence-based approach to that decision making when that time comes. And so the more that we can put into that in terms of objectivity in the basis of that decision, then the better it will be. So I take from that it's quite open really at the moment for the panel, and that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's important that we give the group the flexibility to do the right work so that we can get the right results. Thank you. So this has been proposed. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Toy. So can we move to the vote then, please, if no one else is wishing to speak? All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Right, so we move to managing performance Q2. As you all know, this is a standard report that comes forward. It does have a time lag on it, but I know that we have made strong progress and I think we're moving forwards now at quite considerable pace. I think we have managed to other reports available too to be read alongside this. So we have now a reporting on the corporate plan on each of those so that we can all see exactly where we are. So I would like to propose acceptance of this document. Does anyone have any questions on it? No? Can I have a seconder then, please, for this document? Councillor Kershaw, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. So, Councillor Seward, it's back to you for the Treasury Management Report, please.
Thank you very much. Yeah, excuse me. This is a regular and routine report. If members have any particular technical data questions, then officers are here today to answer them. It will be going to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I think the thing that stands out to me at this stage is that although we're now paid almost all the bills, hopefully, for the reef and the new waste vehicles, we're not actually having to engage in long-term borrowing to do that. We're managing our finances very well. That enables us not at this stage to engage in any long-term borrowing. That saves the council considerable sums of money. And I also note that even our short-term borrowing is now down to 3 million. So on that basis, I move the recommendations that the council be asked to resolve the Treasury Management Hard Yearly Report is approved. I'm sorry, I think it is 3 million, not 3,000. It's my fault. I'm getting a bit weary now. But yes, so I just moved that recommendation.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions on this report? No? Would somebody like to second it? Thank you very much, Councillor. In which case we will move to the vote then. All those in favour? Eric, are you in favour? Thank you. Right. There being no other business, I therefore close the meeting. There's no need to